It's not a book club, but I bet a lot of people think it is.
That's right, yeah. We say that as our tongue-in-cheek tagline because anyone who joins gets to bring their own book. If I am reading a fiction book one day and I'm reading non-fiction the next day, I want to be able to bring both of those and be welcome in the space. We certainly share a lot with book clubs in that we're an in-person space for readers to gather over their shared love of reading. We just generally don't like to tell people what to read most of the time, which I think keeps it fun and interesting.
So, how does this work?
If you come to a reading party, you bring your own book, we greet you, you get a cute little branded name tag, Christina sits down. We then get into our first 30-minute reading block. You've got time to yourself. We play some curated music over the back, which is actually where the name Reading Rhythms came from. It's a Spotify playlist. We then have 15 minutes of one-to-one discussion where you get to use your book as an icebreaker. My favorite question for any reader, Christina, is not what do you do for work? It's what are you reading? Because the lights in your eyes will light up and you'll go, oh, I'm reading this because I picked this. And if I like that book, you can bet we're about to have a great conversation. And so asking what are you reading is the best icebreaker for a bookworm. So we do that for 15 minutes. Then we get into 30 minutes of reading again, bring the energy back down to introspection. And then we end with 20 minutes of group discussion around themed topics related to the night. So it's about 2 hours all in. You've got time to yourself to feel relaxed and recharge, time with others to make new friends, and you come away with a few great book recommendations at the end too.
I have never heard of anything like this. Obviously, there's book clubs galore. I'm probably in too many of them, but this is so unique. So tell me how you got the idea for this, how it started, and how it grew.
It was about 18 months ago, just over, June 23, and I am living in New York City with my best friend Tom, and we just weren't reading enough. And we weren't reading enough because we're going out and being social and classic New Yorkers, meeting all the people. And I said to him one day, Tom, the thing that's really bugging me is our books. They're just gathering dust on our shelves. We got to do something about this. And he says, yeah, I feel like we can do an event around books. And I said, that's kind of a cool idea. And then we started jamming on the format. What if we had time where we could read by ourselves and time to meet other people? And we said, yeah, this kind of feels like a book club, which we love. We're all about book clubs. But it kind of feels different. It feels like cool, and we want to have a vibe, and we have a great rooftop here in Brooklyn, and the venue space has always been important to us from day one. And so it's kind of like a party but with reading, so let's call it a reading party. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So we invited 10 friends over to our rooftop. We put out some nice lighting, some snacks, and we went through the format which I just explained to you, and the vibes felt good. We kept doing that for 4 or 5 months as this fun hobby project. We then got covered by this small institution called the New York Times, which was completely, honestly, life-changing and swept me off my feet and humbling and crazy and all the things at once. I had no idea what that was like before it, but we had people reaching out from 6 continents telling us they want reading parties in Sydney, Australia, in Guadalajara, in Algeria, North Africa, in Rome, in Italy. I'm like, wow, this has struck a chord. And so about 18 months later, we're in 15 cities and just trying to share our mission of creating belonging through reading.
How did you land the New York Times?
One of our community members, Adam, actually is really good friends with someone who works there, Molly. And he'd been really intentional from day one of just kind of being part of our story. And he mentioned it to Molly, and Molly said, this actually sounds great. I've never heard of anything like this. So we just invited her as a friend to the party to come and have a flavor for it. She wrote it up, brought a photographer. And what's funny is we thought that we were going to go live in like January, February. That's what we were told kind of tentatively. And you never know, of course, right? Because editorial is out of your control. But we had this kind of inkling that something would happen to our community at that time. We didn't really know what. I flew home back for Christmas on December 18th. I'm really jet lagged. Jet lag just hit kind of badly. And I got up a ridiculous hour on December 19th. I'm stretching, just trying to come awake groggily. And I get this email. It's Molly from the New York Times. Hey guys, editorial loved your piece. Great news. And we're going live later today. We'll see you in 2 hours. Good luck. I'm like, what? I texted John and Charlotte and Tom. I'm like, guys, I think it's happening. And we waited for like lunchtime, 12 p.m. Eastern. There was a little spike in traffic. And then at 5 p.m., it just went nuts. I mean, we had major publishers reaching out to us. The Today Show wants to do a feature with us. Brands want to send us product. Like, it was just nuts. And I'm at home with my parents watching this come in and being like, I don't think this is a hobby anymore. I think this is a real thing. So yeah, it was a cool moment to experience with my friends.
I love hearing those stories. So tell me how you monetize this because when it started, it was just like a fun thing to get together, right? Or did you start charging right off the bat?
No, it was free for a while actually. We just wanted to do it to see what it was like and have some fun with it. So it was free for the first one, got 10 people, then they told their friends, then we had 20 people. Then there was one, I think it was maybe event 4 or 5, where we sold out the roof. We put capacity at 30, and only half the people showed up. And that's where I learned a good lesson in free ticket modeling that if you make something free, more than half of your attendees are not going to show up because it's low commitment, no commitment. So it's funny looking back on it. We thought about this for ages. We were like, right, does this feel good to charge? And in the end, we decided charging a nominal fee. And that then raises the intention of the audience. Now, for the experience that we have, depending on where you are around the world, we will price at between $20 or $15 on the low end here in the United States, and we have a separate model for Europe as well. What you're getting for that is very similar to what you get to a yoga class. You think about why you would go to yoga. You go for an amazing space that is not doing yoga in your living room. You go for an instructor that's trained and knows the format to guide you through. And you go for a format that you don't have to memorize and can just be led through. A reading party is the same thing. We are super intentional with our venue selection. We have trained facilitators that go through an onboarding program to actually learn how to do reading parties. And then we have a signature format that if you go to a reading party in Charleston or Toronto or in Florence, they're all going to feel the same because the format kind of binds you together. So readers pay for our experience. And then we also partner with publishers as well and brands who, especially with in the literature world, who want to get either new titles or up and coming titles in front of an aligned reader base. We have a ton of readers who love commercial fiction, romance, literary fiction, mystery thriller. And we love throwing parties that bring that aligned reader base together for a publisher that wants to get their new title in front of them. So, I mean, we've either worked with or have had conversations with all 5 of the big 5 publishers now, and really excited about the future of that.
You had a website before then as well, and that's where people went to after the article hit?
We had a website and we had an Instagram. So the Instagram to start was just kind of like, oh, let's document this hobby project because this will be cool to look back on one day. And we just like took pictures of the roof and people gathering and documented the journey. And I remember it was a big moment when we hit 1,000 followers. You're like, wow, this is so cool. This is like an amazing thing. And so I think that was our main like top of funnel. And then for people who are going to engage with us, they went to the website to learn more about the events. Now we send people to our email list. If you really want to engage with Reading Rhythms, sign up for a newsletter. It's a combo of Instagram, some TikTok, on social, our website, and then funneling to an email list.
You make money from your local chapter where you are. What about other people who start chapters? Like, how does that business model work? Is it like licensing, or for lack of a better word, like these are your franchisees?
It is kind of like a franchise, and I'm really inspired by the franchise model. I have a good friend actually who is a franchise creator, which 2025 didn't even know that could be a thing 10 years ago, but he makes content around it. And he really helped me think through this idea that Reading Rhythms can kind of be a chapter in a box type model. Now with franchising, they're very expensive to run. You're looking at like 50K just to get the franchise disclosure document created. And we're a community project. Like, yes, we're really excited about this, but we are not at the level of a McDonald's or something that you need to have all this implementation. So for us, the chapter leads that come and work with us, we're looking for people that are aligned readers, that have a passion for seeing reading community in their local city, and are fire starters. We want people who can organize and have that kind of spark of proactivity, of looking for venues, corralling readers together. And we support them a lot on the back end. We've learned a lot with marketing, with operations, with venue sourcing, all these pieces that kind of bring the chapter together. We have a playbook that they get access to. And what we ask them to do is, I'm a big believer that community is cadence. You have to have a cadence in order to have a community. And our recommendation to them is that they host reading parties once a month. I think that's a good touch point for you, for example, down in Florida, Christina. If you were going to go to a reading party, you probably wouldn't go once a week. That's probably too much. You might go twice a month, once every 2 weeks, and you would maybe go like once a month. Most of our readers fall into that bucket of either bi-weekly or monthly. So we then help them kind of build those pieces together. So the pieces that we're looking at doing is finding a space together, building a local team to help them, and then marketing the events so we get readers all at our parties together.
You've done a lot in a year and a half with this business.
It's definitely grown at a rate I'm very proud of, and hasn't always been easy. We've had some hard lessons for sure. I think one thing I am grateful for is that when the New York Times hit and we had this kind of wave of momentum, we actually pushed off expanding for 8 months. We just focused on New York for a long time to get the product right and to figure out how we wanted to structure this. And what we learned about in-person gatherings is that readers want a couple of things. They want venues, first of all, that are convenient. If you are in a city like Austin, you should be able to drive to it pretty easily. If you're in New York, you should be able to walk there ideally or hop on a short subway. Shouldn't take that long to get there. Second is they want hosts that are local. In New York, we were sending people who lived in Harlem down to host in Bushwick, from the top of Manhattan to the bottom of Brooklyn, which isn't a great neighborhood match because the likelihood of them meeting up locally afterwards is so much lower. And then the third thing is you want other readers that are coming from that local area to join you. And so that's really what inspired our chapter model now. A chapter is just a local area where our readers gather. And we have them all around the United States and all around the world now. But those are led by local chapter leads, and the people that attend are also local readers. And so if you're a tourist and you come and visit New York City, we now have seen tourists from Brazil, from Italy, from Sweden and Norway put a reading party on their New York bucket list, which is insane to me, as a local experience that they want to do. And then some of them are actually going home and starting those chapters locally themselves because they love the experience. I think that consistency of how intentional it is when you join one of our spaces is something that really sets us apart, which I love.
So, what is a typical day for you like? Is this your full-time gig or do you do other things?
Yeah, it is my full-time gig. It's crazy. If you asked me 2 years ago what I'd be doing, and I said I'm professionally throwing reading parties, I would have been like, "Get out of here! What even is that?" But the world works in mysterious and beautiful ways. I'm very proud of the team that we have. We have a great team on the back end supporting with sales, marketing, account management, reader support, which is what we call customer support, product and operations. So I feel very supported there. This is not a one-man show. It is very much a team effort. I have a team of co-founders who were also my best friends before starting this, John, Tom, and Charlotte. So I love them dearly, and I'm glad to be working with them on the project too. And I go to a lot of the reading parties. I'm going to one later tonight for Prospect Heights. I'm going to one next week in Williamsburg. I actually, you can't see this, but I have every name tag sticker that I've collected from my reading parties across my desk, and it's probably approaching like 50 at this point. It's a lot, because those are important to me, and I don't want working behind a screen is no substitute for the real impact that we make. And so I love just being reminded of that this is a really positive thing that's doing a tremendous amount of good for the world right now.
Any advice for people who have a bookish hobby and maybe they want to turn it into a business? What would you tell them?
I would start with the question, what feels like play to you that feels like work to everybody else? I think so much of life's joy is unlocked when you can find a game that you want to play for the love of you playing it and that you find easy and that everyone else finds hard. And that to me is really about following your own instincts and really what makes you happy and gather feedback, of course, and listen to what people are telling you, but really trust your own inner compass. With a bookish hobby, for example, one of our chapter leads in Chicago, Sarah, loves bookbinding. She's just gotten super into that as a hobby and has started a bookbinding Instagram. I probably wouldn't recommend Sarah to start a subscription business. It doesn't make sense. I would recommend her to go and keep doing what she's doing, which is create these amazing books and keep practicing her binding because that's what lights her up. So I would start with the excitement, and then I would just find a way to bring people along on your journey of excitement. I think series are playing really well on social media right now. And so if this is like sticking with Sarah, for example, day one of documenting my journey to bind every YA series that I loved as a kid. starting with Harry Potter. And then she just goes through all the books that she loves, creating these really unique editions and talking through her process. And there's this cool editing style I can see where you can chop up like a 3-hour project into a 30-second video showing you the finished book. That's something that people can get behind, because then it's not just, oh, this is a cool hobby. I'm now interested in Sarah and taking her along for the journey with me. And so that's probably how I would approach it, is figuring out what's your series and how can you share that in an authentic way that lets other people get bought into your excitement.
I think Sarah needs to come on the podcast and tell me about her new bookbinding business.
Yeah, we should get her on. That's a good idea.
Tell me the book you're currently reading and the last best book that you read.
Okay, I am currently reading, and I just started it last night, The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams. I love high fantasy. It's one of my favorite genres. And this is one of the books that inspired George R. R. Martin to write Game of Thrones. It's like one of the original epic fantasy sagas. So I'm very excited about that. Just started last night. I love your second question, Christina. I would say the book that really stands out to me as just I could not put this down. Pierce Brown has an amazing trilogy called the Red Rising trilogy for any sci-fi fans out there. It kind of puts Earth centuries into the future where Mars has been colonized. The people who colonized Mars broke off from Earth and started their own intergalactic civilization using the Roman Empire as inspiration in space. And it has a great character, great cast, great plot. The second book of that series, Golden Sun, I was back home. We had just done our first global reading party in Italy, and all I wanted to do was read this book. I was like so jazzed about the reading part and seeing my family. I was like, yeah, this is cool, but like, what's happening on chapter 35? I gotta find this out, and I just could not put it down. So for any fans of like epic sci-fi sagas, the Red Rising trilogy is amazing.
I've seen that one on Bookstagram a lot. That one sounds familiar to me. And I'm not a fantasy person, but I just finished the whole ACOTAR series and I loved it.
Oh, what did you think?
I liked it a lot. I liked it a
Yeah.
lot, which now everybody's like, well, now you need to read Fourth Wing. And I'm like, oh dear God, like, what is this? What am I doing here? Like, since when am I reading this romanticy stuff?
Yeah, I actually read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. My girlfriend recommended it to me. I kind of enjoyed it. It was fun. It was like an easy, fun read. Plot flowed very nicely. I liked it.
I just did a podcast interview last week with somebody who has a book blog and she gets a lot of traffic through SEO. And a way she's diversifying her income with the Fourth Wing series, I guess between the first, second, and third books, a lot of time has passed and they get very complicated. So, you know how, like, when you're watching a TV show and they do a little recap of what happened last episode? She's
Yeah.
created like a guide and
Oh,
charts and graphs and images
oh,
of
cool.
the names and the dragons and whatever. So no matter how much time has passed between you reading the
Yeah.
books, you'll understand. So she's selling that on her website for like $4, and apparently it's super popular.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, because those fantasy books, they lend themselves to such immersive world building. One of my other favorite authors, Brandon Sanderson, he has a designer who's called Isaac. I can't remember his surname, but he dedicated one of his books to him and said, Isaac, the man who lights up my world, who paints the visuals or the vision of my books. And what I love about that is the power of a chart or a graph or a map to show you the topography of a place to just bring it to life. It's like, oh, this is where my story is set. So I love that. What was
Yeah.
the lady's name who you had in the podcast?
Her name is Julianne with thelifestyle.com.
TheLiteraryLifestyle.com. Cool. I have to check that out. If you want to see, if you're listening to this and you want to see a reading party and reading community in your local area, you can head to our website, readingrhythms.co. We've got a form there that just says bring reading rhythms to your local area. We'd love for you to fill it out. We're planning on opening chapters all over the United States and over the world over the coming years. And if you really want to see reading community, we'd love to make that happen.